The air in the Bois de Vincennes is cold and damp, heavy with the scent of rain on turned earth. It is 5 a.m. on October 15th, 1917. A grey dawn bleeds into the sky, illuminating a stark, terrible scene. A row of 12 wooden posts is driven into the ground. Before one of them, a figure stands, silhouetted against the pale light. She wears a tailored navy suit, not the silks and jewels of a legend. Her hands are bound. A priest murmurs final prayers, but her gaze is fixed on a point in the distance. A French officer steps forward, his boots crushing the wet grass. He offers a strip of black cloth. She refuses it. "Do I need this?" she asks, her voice steady. The officer hesitates, then nods. She looks at the firing squad, 12 soldiers fumbling with their rifles, their faces pale. She offers a faint, enigmatic smile. "Thank you, gentlemen." This is not the death of a soldier. This is an execution. The charge, espionage. The name on the death warrant, Margaretha Zelle. The world knows her as Mata Hari. Dancer, courtesan, spy, or is she something else entirely? A pawn in a game so vast she never understood the rules? The officer raises his sword. The rifles snap up. In this final, suspended second, the mystery is complete. Who is this woman? And why must she die? Our story does not begin at the firing line, but in the lush, perfumed darkness of a Parisian salon, years before the guns of August roared. The air is thick with cigar smoke, champagne, and the scent of exotic tuberose. On a stage, under a single spotlight, a woman moves. She is not classically beautiful, but magnetic. Her body, draped in nothing but a bejeweled breastplate and sheer silks, sways to the rhythm of Javanese gamelan music, music most of the audience has never heard. Her eyes are dark, kohl-rimmed, holding a promise of ancient secrets. She is Mata Hari, which in Malay means Eye of the Dawn. She claims to be a temple dancer, a princess from the East, weaned on sacred rituals. The men in the audience, politicians, bankers, industrialists, lean forward, captivated. The women watch with a mixture of horror and fascination. This is 1905, and she is a sensation. But the truth is less exotic, born in a small town in the Netherlands. Margaretha Zelle was a grocer's daughter, a dreamer who answered a newspaper ad from a Dutch colonial officer seeking a wife. She married him and was shipped to the Dutch East Indies. The marriage was a disaster, a descent into cruelty and infidelity, but the islands gave her a gift, a fascination with the local dance and culture. She absorbed it, not as a scholar, but as a performer. After leaving her husband, she arrived in Paris with nothing but her wits, her body, and a fabricated past. She invented Mata Hari, and Paris adored the invention. She became the most famous dancer of her age, then, as her dancing career waned, the most celebrated courtesan. Her bed was rumored to be a crossroads of European power. German diplomats, French ministers, British aristocrats, Russian counts. She collected them all, their secrets whispered on pillows soaked in perfume and sweat. In the gilded cage of the Belle Epoque, she was a rare, exotic bird. But the world was changing. The atmosphere was shifting from the scent of flowers to the acrid tang of cordite. 1914. The lights go out across Europe. The Great War engulfs the continent in a muddy, bloody stalemate. The salon doors close. The music stops. For a woman like Mata Hari, whose currency was charm and access, the war is both a crisis and an opportunity. Her wealth is frozen. Her lovers are at the front or deep in shadowy government bureaus. She is 38, her fame fading. She needs protection. She needs money. In the winter of 1915, she travels to neutral Holland. The journey is arduous, across a continent carved by trenches. In The Hague, she is approached. The man is Karl Kromer, a German consul. The offer is blunt, money for information. Little things, innocuous things she might hear. She needs the funds. She accepts. The code name, H21. A spy is born, or so the files will later say. But Mata Hari was never a subtle creature. In 1916, she approaches the French consulate in Amsterdam with a proposition of her own. She tells Captain Georges Ledoux, a sleek, ambitious officer of French counter-espionage, that the Germans have recruited her. She offers to work as a double agent for France, to spy on her German contacts. Ledoux, a man who sees chess pieces where there are people, looks at this notorious woman, with her web of influential connections, and sees a weapon. He gives his approval. He instructs her to gain information from the Germans in occupied Belgium. It is a fatal decision. From this moment, Margaretha Zelle is living on borrowed time. She is an amateur walking onto a professional battlefield. The intelligence world is a labyrinth of locked doors and mirrored walls. She thinks it is another salon. She travels to Madrid, then to Paris, her movements tracked by multiple agencies. The British suspect her. The French monitor her. The Germans have their own plans. In Madrid, she takes a lover, Major Arnold Colley, a German military attaché. He is charming, generous. He gives her information, details of a supposed British plot in Morocco. She believes it is valuable. She sends it to Captain Ledoux in a coded message, using the cipher he gave her. It is her first real intelligence delivery for France. She expects praise, reward. She does not know that the information is false, a carefully prepared piece of bait. And she certainly does not know that Colley, under orders from Berlin, has sent a telegram to his superiors in a code he knows the French have broken. The message clearly identifies Agent H21 as Mata Hari and states she has delivered valuable intelligence to the Germans. It is a masterstroke of deception. The German High Command, weary of her and aware of her French contacts, has decided to burn their own agent. They sacrifice H21 to sow distrust, to clean their books, to create a spectacle. The telegram is intercepted by French intelligence, just as the Germans intended. In a war of unprecedented slaughter, where the public demands vengeance, a spy must be found. A glamorous, foreign, sexually powerful spy is perfect. The trap slams shut. On February 13th, 1917, as she arrives back in Paris, dreaming of her next performance or her next lover, the hand falls on her shoulder. It is not a gallant admirer. It is the military police. She is arrested in her room at the Hotel Plaza Athénée, a place still smelling of her signature perfume. The charge is espionage, punishable by death. The evidence, the decoded German telegram, her own admitted liaisons, the money in her bank account from Chroma. The press erupts. The headlines are vicious. The SPY in the silk stockings. The courtesan of death. Mata Hari, the creation, has been unmasked. But as what? A master spy. Or the perfect scapegoat. The door to her cell at the Saint Lazare prison is a heavy, echoing thing. It smells of disinfectant, mildew, and despair. Once a hospital, Saint Lazare is now a holding pen for the destitute, the sick, and women like her. The silks are gone. She wears a plain, rough dress. The only remnants of her past life are her impeccable posture and the defiant gleam in her eyes. 4 months, she is interrogated. The questions are circular, insistent. Who did you sleep with? What did they say? Where did the money come from? Captain Ledoux, the man who recruited her, is now her chief prosecutor. His ambition is a cold, sharp thing. The case against her is built on circumstance and perception. The decoded German telegram is the centerpiece, a seemingly irrefutable document. Her travels to neutral countries, her relationships with powerful men on both sides, the 30,000 pesetas from Colley, which she insists was payment for intimate services, not information, the earlier funds from Chroma. The military tribunal sees a pattern. They see a woman without a nation, without morals, a creature of appetite who would sell anything to anyone. She maintains her story with a dancer's poise. She was working for France. She was a double agent. The information she gave Colley was trivial, just scraps to maintain her cover. The money was for love, not treason. My body, she says, has always been my own. I have given it to many men. That does not make me a spy. It makes me a woman who knows her worth. But in a courtroom of stern military judges, in a France bleeding from Verdun and the Somme, her words sound like the brazen defense of a harlot. Her sexuality, once her power, is now the primary evidence of her guilt. A loyal woman, they believe, is a chaste woman. Mata Hari is neither. The trial is closed to the public, a secret military proceeding. The testimony is a whisper in a vault. No concrete evidence of a single French soldier dying because of her actions is ever presented. No specific battle plans, no fortification diagrams, no lists of agents betrayed are entered into the record. The case is spectral, built on the idea of her treachery. The judges see not Margaretha Zelle, but the myth they helped create, the exotic, dangerous, all-consuming Mata Hari. In a time of national agony, she embodies everything chaotic and corrupt. She must be purged. The verdict is a foregone conclusion. Guilty on all charges. Sentence: death by firing squad. When it is read aloud, she does not swoon or cry. She merely nods, as if she had finally understood the role she was always meant to play. Back in her cell, she writes letters to her daughter, whom she has not seen in years. The ink is cheap and watery. She requests a final outfit, a stylish dress, a hat, good shoes. She will meet her end not as a prisoner, but as a star, making her final, dramatic exit. That brings us back to the cold, damp dawn at Vincennes. She stands before the post, refusing the blindfold, facing the 12 men with their level rifles. Some are trembling. They have been told they are executing a viper, a monster who caused the deaths of thousands of their comrades. They see a 41-year-old woman, calm and oddly pitying. The officer's sword cuts through the air. A shouted command. A volley of shots, shockingly loud in the morning quiet. She does not cry out. She slumps against the post, then slides to the ground. One of the soldiers, a sergeant, steps forward, his pistol drawn, the coup de grace. The ritual is complete. A doctor declares her dead. The body is left in the mud for a time before being taken away, unclaimed, to a medical school for dissection. No marker, no ceremony. The French state has erased her. But the story does not die with her. Almost immediately, the whispers begin. In the cafes and newspapers, a counter-narrative takes shape. Was she really a spy? Or was she a convenient sacrifice? The facts are muddy. The German telegram, the linchpin of the case, is now seen by many historians as exactly what it appeared to be: a deliberate act of disinformation by German intelligence to discard an unreliable asset and create chaos. Captain Ledoux's own career is later stained. He is accused of incompetence and is eventually imprisoned for fraud. The head of French counter-espionage later admits the case was thin, built more on notoriety than fact. Consider the context. 1917. The French army is reeling from mutinies. Nivelle's offensive has been a catastrophic failure. Morale is at its nadir. The public, the politicians, demand answers, demand blood. A glamorous, foreign spy trial is a perfect distraction. It unites the nation against a singular, seductive villain. Mata Hari, with her tangled web of lovers and her ambiguous loyalties, was the ideal candidate. She was not executed for what she did, but for what she represented: the dangerous, permeable borders of a society at war, the fear that the enemy could be in the most intimate of places. Furthermore, what secrets did she actually possess? She traded in pillow talk, the loose chatter of generals and diplomats, not in military blueprints. In the grim calculus of espionage, her value was always more symbolic than real. Yet, her punishment was the most real, most final imaginable. And what of the men in her life? The powerful figures who whispered secrets in her ear and then vanished into the shadows of respectability when she was arrested? Not one was ever investigated or charged. Their reputations remained intact. She alone bore the full, terrifying weight of the state's vengeance. She was the flammable sacrifice thrown on the pyre of national pride. The mystery deepens when we look at her own actions. If she was a dedicated German agent, Why did she return to Paris, knowing Ledoux was suspicious of her? If she was a cunning French patriot, why was she so reckless in her dealings with Colley? The most plausible portrait that emerges is not of a master spy, but of a vain, resourceful, and perpetually cash-strapped woman who believed she could play both sides to her advantage, who thought her charm and notoriety made her untouchable. She mistook the intelligence game for another performance, another salon intrigue. It was not. It was a butcher's yard. Her final performance, however, was flawless. Facing the rifles, she gave them nothing. No tears, no confession, no last-minute revelation. Only that cool, defiant gaze. In that moment, she reclaimed the legend. She became not a convicted criminal, but a tragic heroine, a symbol of a world that used women and then destroyed them for being used. The ground at Vincennes swallowed the blood. The war ground on for another year. The name Mata Hari faded from the headlines, only to be resurrected later as a synonym for the fatal, feminine spy. But the question lingers, a ghost in the archives, a doubt in the historical record. Did they execute a traitor? Or did they murder a scapegoat to satisfy a starving public and cover for the failures of men? The echoes of the volley at Vincennes had not yet faded before the legend began to ossify, hardening into a cautionary tale. But beneath the official story, the ground remained unstable. The fallout from Mata Hari's execution was not a closure, but a crack in the foundation of France's wartime narrative, one that would slowly widen with time. In the immediate aftermath, Captain Georges Ledoux basked in the glory. He had captured the most dangerous spy of the age, or so the papers said. His career seemed assured. Yet, within 2 years, the hunter found himself in a cage. Arrested in 1919 on charges of fraud and conspiracy with the enemy, Ledoux was imprisoned for 2 months. Though ultimately acquitted of treason, the stain never left him. The man who built the case on circumstantial evidence was himself nearly devoured by the same system. His fall from grace fueled the first serious public doubts. If the architect of her prosecution was suspect, what did that say about the trial? Meanwhile, in Germany, post-war archives revealed a chilling pragmatism. Intelligence officers, in offhand remarks and memoranda, referred to Agent H21 as a modest asset and later, a sacrifice. The notorious telegram from Major Colley was confirmed by some historians to be exactly what it appeared: a funkspiel, a radio game, designed to mislead the French and cleanse their own roles of a liability. Mata Hari, in the end, was worth more to Berlin dead than alive, a piece of disinformation to be consumed by a paranoid enemy. But the true long-term consequence was more profound than the shifting reputations of spy masters. Mata Hari became a template, an archetype. She created the image of the spy as a glamorous, seductive woman, an image that would permeate 20th century fiction and film. Yet, this very caricature obscured the grim reality of her fate and the complex questions it raised. She was transformed from a historical figure into a myth, and myths are easier to dismiss than uncomfortable truths. The uncomfortable truth is this: the evidence that condemned her would not stand in any modern court of law. It was hearsay, financial circumstantials, and the poisoned fruit of deliberate enemy deception. No action of hers was ever definitively linked to a specific Allied defeat or loss of life. Pierre Bouchardon, the investigative judge who built the dossier against her, admitted privately that the case was moral rather than factual. Her greatest crime, in the eyes of the Third Republic, was not espionage, but moral turpitude. She was a woman who lived on her own terms, who used her sexuality as a tool for advancement, who mocked the rigid class and gender structures of her time. In wartime, that independence was recast as treasonous instability. She was not a patriot anchored to a nation, and in an age of furious nationalism, that was intolerable. The debate among historians is a quiet, persistent duel in footnotes and biographies. One camp, the traditionalists, argue that while the trial was flawed, Mata Hari was undoubtedly a spy. She accepted money from 2 sides. She carried messages. In the black and white world of war, that is enough. She may have been incompetent, a dilettante, but she entered the game and must bear the consequences. The revisionist view sees her primarily as a victim of German manipulation, of French military expediency, and of pervasive misogyny. They point to the lack of concrete evidence, the blatant use of her sexuality against her, and the political climate of 1917 as proof that she was chosen to die. In this light, she is a scapegoat, a dazzling distraction offered up to a public, and a parliament desperate for a tangible enemy behind the lines, someone to blame for the unbearable slaughter at the front. There is a third, more haunting possibility, one that lingers in the silence between the lines of telegrams and love letters, that she was both a willing, if amateur, participant in espionage, and a sacrifice demanded by a moment of national crisis. These identities are not mutually exclusive. She may have dabbled in shadows, believing herself clever enough to control the game, only to discover that the shadows were infinitely deeper and hungrier than she imagined. The system did not just catch a spy, it manufactured a perfect villain to suit its needs, and she, with her pre-existing notoriety and tangled web, fit the role all too well. The full truth is buried with her. Her body, after being used for medical dissection, was disposed of without record. Her head, it was rumoured, was embalmed and kept in the Musée d'Anatomy in Paris, before mysteriously vanishing in the 1950s. Even in death, she was not allowed rest, becoming a literal specimen, an object of morbid curiosity. It is a grotesque coda that seems fitting for a story so consumed with the tension between the person and the persona. So, we are left with the image of that morning, the woman, the post, the rifles, the refused blindfold. It is an image of defiance, yes, but also of a profound, unsettling ambiguity. She looked into the eyes of her executioners and gave them a performance they could not forget, ensuring her story would never end with that volley of shots. She ensured we would keep asking, keep probing the darkness, because sometimes the most terrifying monster is not the one in the cell, but the machine that puts her there, the court that needs a verdict more than it needs justice, the public that demands a witch to burn, the historians who cannot agree on what they see in the ashes. The story of Mata Hari is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a mirror, reflecting our own need for certainty in the chaotic fog of war, and our willingness to destroy the enigmatic, the independent, the different in order to find it. She danced on the edge of that truth, and when the music stopped, the world showed her what it does to those who live in the grey.